What if one of the biggest ideas that you've been believing about success, about growth, about achieving big things is the idea that's actually holding you back? If you've been on the internet in any recent times, you've definitely heard this message spread far and wide. Be obsessive, be passionate, be all in. You just don't want it enough. If you wanted it enough, you would have done anything and everything to get it. You don't want it bad enough, and all these things that are essentially guilt tripping you into believing that the reason you don't have the success you want to have today is because you're not obsessed enough with it, you're not attached enough to it, you're not willing to give your all to it. Well, those statements hold some truth. There is some merit to them, but definitely not as much as we give to them. Because the truth is, a lot of times, the obsession that the modern world has now romanticized, the obsession that we're all worried about not having enough of, that's actually just a mask for fear and desperation. And the moment we let go of that mask and we actually address these core feelings, and by addressing these core feelings, we break free from the pattern, well, that's when we don't need to remind ourselves to be obsessed. We can have genuine, healthy, incredible, curiosity driven passion towards something that pushes us to take massive action without the feelings of fear and desperation that are actually the fuels for current modern day obsession as we are understanding it. So I'm going to break this down for you in today's conversation. We are on the 106th live breakthrough session, and today I want to finally, once and for all, end this war for you, end this fight for you, so you can realize where to be obsessed and where you might just be masking your desperation as obsession. So let's begin this by understanding what are the traits or the core ideas that people have behind obsession. And it's this: you're all in. You are going crazy about that thing. They give examples of people like Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs and other amazing leaders who have done so well and who have gone so deep into their work that they've created magical results. Now, when they talk about this, they say they wanted it bad. They wanted it really a lot. They were obsessed. They were giving it their all. And all of those statements are true. But where they miss context is in understanding what they were giving their all for. You and me, a lot of us, we are obsessed with just the results. Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, athletes, people who make it big, they're obsessed with the art and the process. And that's the core difference. When we learn the lesson of obsession, we are not obsessed with building a business. We are not obsessed with providing value. We are obsessed with that $1 million. When we want to become an Olympic athlete, we are not obsessed with the process of working out, practicing, mastering your craft. We are obsessed with the result of standing on that stage. When we are doing something or the other in our lives, we are somewhere afraid we might not get it. We might not get it. I really want to get it. I really want to do it. And that is why, when we're in that kind of a mindset of fear and desperation, we channel that desperate energy of doubt into action that we cover up in the name of obsession. But all that is showing up as is an attachment to the results. Nothing bad. It's okay. You can have it if you want. But the thing is, you don't want it to last. You don't want that to be your driving force, because then ultimately it's a black hole that you're falling into. You'll achieve one thing, you'll be insecure about the next. You'll achieve that thing, you'll be insecure about the third. And that's when you get a pattern where somebody who was feeling lack and insecure when they were making just 20,000 rupees feels the same when they're even making 200 or 2,000 crore rupees. And I'm not just saying this for the sake of it. I've heard about people, I've talked to people who are obsessed with earning money, okay? They're very good at business. But deep down, it's this desperation, it's this attachment to this. What if this deal doesn't go through? What if this doesn't happen? But they don't want to address that, right? They just want to remain in their comfortable shell. So they'll say, oh, I'm so obsessed. I work on my business. I keep track of everything. I keep measure of all the big and small things happening. Well, pretty admirable. But at the same time, it's just eating away your life, because rather than inspiring you, that obsession is exhausting you. But when you look at your career, when you look at your job, when you look at anything and everything in your life, even your relationships, for example, because we've romanticized obsession so much, we think attachment means I want it enough. technically true again. But when that energy itself is negative, when you're in that constant fear of losing it, of not having enough of it, you're not going to get abundance of it. And that's when you'll take actions that sabotage you. That's when you'll take steps that hold you back. That's when something or the other will go wrong. And under the name of obsession, you will keep manifesting more and more and more and more and more struggle, just so you can prove to yourself how obsessed you really are with getting the goal that you want. You see, it's an endless loop. And when we compare ourselves to people like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, we forget to see the fact that Steve Jobs wasn't looking at selling $1 billion worth of Apple computers. Steve Jobs was driven by a mission of democratizing technology and bringing the freedom and the power and the leverage of a modern computer into the hands of a common man, not just corporations, not just governments. That's what he was actually driven by. Because he took a calligraphy class when he was in college, he learned that you don't just want computers. You want something that works for you, something that aligns with you. And because of that, he was on a mission. He was obsessed with creating a user interface that interplays the principles of art and calligraphy into modern tech. And that's where we get today's modern day interfaces from. Before Steve Jobs, before Apple, the concept of a graphical user interface didn't even exist. Everything, all computers worked on command lines and on codes. But because Steve Jobs was focused on creating that experience, he led the change. He created that massive leap forward. Facebook wasn't just about making money, getting investors, becoming a billionaire. Facebook was about finding a completely new way of connecting with people. And because Mark Zuckerberg was obsessed with mastering the product, not the result, Facebook became the company that it did today. So when we look at Apple, when we look at Facebook, when we look at artists, when we look at Olympians, when we look at any form of success, let's stop making this misconception that their obsession was with the results, that their obsession was their desperation. It was not. They were not desperate for the results. They knew when it has to happen, it will happen. They were relaxed in that front, but they were curiously driven and excited and just plain up fueled to go towards that thing with full passion and full purpose. And that's what you need to create in your life. I mean, a lot of us are doing things only for the sake of the results. And that's why we are not succeeding. Result doesn't come, we give up. Result doesn't happen, we say, what's the point? Well, that's the point. Every journey to success has those ups and downs. Every single hero's journey has those points where the resolve is tested, where the obsession is tested. So if you want to be obsessed, which is a core trait for success, don't be obsessed with the results. Be obsessed with the work. Be obsessed with the process. Be obsessed with the kind of person you know you need to show up as. And when you have that, you can create success without the desperation. You can be obsessed with creating the outcome without feeling fearful, without feeling negative, without using insecurity as your fuel. So I'll give you my example. I used to believe in the same dichotomy before, and I used to think, oh, I'm being obsessed. That's why I'm thinking so much about whether client is signing up or not. I'm being obsessed. That's why I'm trying to perfect my processes so much. I'm being obsessed. That's why I'm thinking of all the nitty gritty details. All of that was just fear, desperation, and insecurity at the core. When I changed that for myself, which is also what I help all my clients do in my one to one coaching, the magic that happens is I stopped being desperate. I stopped being fearful. I stopped being insecure. That's why. Am I obsessed? Oh, yes, I am. But I'm obsessed with showing up here live every single day. I'm obsessed with thinking and giving maximum value to my clients as much as I can. So much value that they think if they had paid 10x the amount for what they've paid, still it would be worth it. How can I create that for them? How can I create that magic for them? Am I obsessed and attached to the result of whether somebody signs up or doesn't sign up? No, I'm not. I'm detached. So, do I get desperate in selling? No, I don't. And if I don't get desperate in selling, the amazing thing that happens is my track record goes pretty good. Like 2 years ago, if you'd asked me, do you think you'd be this good at sales? I would say, no way. I can't sell. I don't have the skill. But because I took my obsession to mastering my product, to mastering my coaching, to mastering the science and the art of transformation, I'm able to sell so easily and effortlessly. It's just happening. Success is just coming my way. I'm able to help people create the same magical success in their lives. The beautiful thing about obsession is it's a driving force. It's passion on steroids. It's passion that takes you to the next level. But you got to make sure it's not coming from an attachment to the results. It's coming from your love for the process. And this requires you to be quite honest with yourself, because whether you like it or not, most of us are just attached to the process. No, we are attached to the result, not to the process. And if you're just doing that, well, be ready for some disappointments, be ready for challenges, be ready for problems to show up in ways you may never have imagined before. But then what will happen is you will say, obsession doesn't work. I'm so obsessed. Why is nothing happening? Well, it's your energy of desperation that's blocking your success. So, the core way to understand the difference is, if you're obsessed with the results, that's desperation. If you're genuinely curious and obsessed with the process, that is true obsession, and that's what leads you to success. So, when we say be obsessed, go all in, be like these mavericks who've made it big, right? I love that term, being crazy. Go do all that, but not for the sake of the result, because you genuinely love showing up for yourself. And when you do that, the best part is the results show up magically, the results show up effortlessly, the results show up in such a superb way you may not even recognize it, but it happens. And that's my message for you today. Be obsessed with the right things in the right way. Don't ever confuse your desperation with obsession. It will only lead you in a self deluding path that doesn't end well, that ends with a crash. You want obsession that leads you to success. For that, be obsessed with the right thing, not the results, but the process. So, your reflection for tonight is, can you really implement this? Can you go all in? And can you ask yourself, whatever goal you're chasing, be it in your health, be it in your finances, be it in your career, be it in your relationships, doesn't matter. But this goal that you're chasing, why does it matter to you? Is it just for that external outcome, or because you truly love being the person you become when you do that work? You don't have to love the work, but if you love the person you're becoming as well, that's enough reason to be obsessed with it. And that obsession with the process is what leads you to success. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this gave you new insights. Think more, be obsessed with the right things, do the reflection, and I'll see you now for my next session at 8:30 p.m. IST very, very soon. Bye. Talk to you soon.